Hey, welcome in everybody. It's Laura from Tenacious Taurus Tarot and Astro Insights. And I really want to talk about Mars going retrograde. This is huge. Mars goes retrograde about every 2 years, and this Mars retrograde is pretty important when it comes to the Twin Flame Collective. And so there's a lot of surprising benefits when it comes to Mars retrograde and how it affects the twins. And so first, let's talk about this Mars retrograde, guys, because it is going to be going retrograde on December the 6th. It's going to be going retrograde in the sign of Leo at 6 degrees 10, which brought forward this very prominent energy of the Lovers and the Wheel of Fortune. And so there's going to be a turn of fate, a destined turn of fate. And then it's going to go retrograde back into the sign of Cancer. It's going to stay retrograde for 79 days, and it's going to go direct on February 23rd, 2025 in the sign of Cancer at exactly 17 degrees, the energy of the star. And so 111 on the timer, we are in a massive, impactful healing portal connected to the Twin Flame Collective, connected to the divine masculine collective. And this Mars retrograde is going to affect every single one of us differently. It's going to impact us differently depending on our own zodiac sign and our Mars placements and where these energies are going to be transitioning in our own personal birth chart in the housing. And so basically this is going to be dependent on specifically where Mars falls and where it is going to be going retrograde, because it might oscillate between two separate houses, right? Because of the two separate energies. And so how can you identify the house that Mars is going to be living in during this retrograde? You can book a transit chart with me if you've not done that before. Feel free to check out the links below. But first, let's talk about Mars and Leo and the traits that Mars and Leo brings forward. And then we're going to talk about the traits of Mars and Cancer. And so we need to remember retrogrades are about reassessing, redoing, reanalyzing, going backwards. It's an internal process, right? It's a deep internal shift. So Mars and Leo, I'm very familiar with Mars and Leo. I am a Mars in Leo, but a later degree Mars and Leo. And so Mars and Leo is playful. It's confident, it's expressive, and it's very bold energy. So basically the world is a stage for those that have Mars and Leo, right? And so basically Mars and Leo is like, I'm going to find a way to make somebody smile. They basically need to express themselves through actions, through choices. It's a very passionate, fiery energy, and it is heart-centered, right? Leo is the energy of the sun. And so Mars and Leo gets their source right from the sun. Mars and Cancer is a little bit different, right? We've talked about Mars and Cancer on the channel before. And Mars and Cancer is actually very discomforting in that placement, right? Because Mars is at home in the energy of Scorpio or Aries. And so it's actually overly sensitive in the sign of Cancer. And it's very emotionally reactive, right? Because Cancer can get very moody when there's conflict, and this conflict needs to be resolved. And so the plus side of Mars in Cancer, very protective, right? Very protective of family, friends, and their loved ones. But Mars in Cancer can also be very aggressive, which can lead to a lot of conflict with their loved ones. So a lot of Mars in Cancers are motivated by their feelings because it is a water sign. And they do like to kind of make mountains out of molehills, basically to psych themselves out, whether they realize they're doing this or not, consciously or subconsciously. And so basically with a Mars in Cancer, they can be very forthright when it comes to dealing with issues, small issues, but they definitely will shy away from dealing with larger issues or even making a decision. And so that's kind of like the downfall of Mars in Cancer. And so we're kind of going to be alchemizing Mars and Leo, Mars and Cancer. And so this is going to be a time, I feel, for a lot of the divine masculines to retreat. I feel a lot of the masculine collective are going through a major transition, almost like 444 on the timer, a dark night of the soul. And so there's a lot of divine protection, I feel, surrounding the counterparts and the Twin Flame Collective during this Mercury retrograde. And so this is probably one of the year's most potent transformative periods. And we're not going to come out of this until the spring next year. So the retrograde is 79 days. That's a pretty long time to do the inner work. But I feel things are going to feel a little bit extra crazy with this Mars retrograde. We're going to be feeling triggered. We're going to take things personally. There's going to be conflict. There's likely going to be irritation, and there's going to be stress. So if you're feeling almost like a recalibration within the solar plexus, these are like the collective energy fields that are getting stirred up. I feel the solar plexus along with the heart. And so there's kind of a lot going on right now in the collective, especially with Pluto ingressing into Aquarius. These energies are very loud. These energies are huge. We're also going to have the North Node shifting from Aries into Pisces into the new year. And so how can we turn all of these challenging energies and these challenging times into the greatest gift for our twin flame journey, right? Because it's a journey, right? It is definitely a journey. And so what power does Mars retrograde have to bring when it comes to bringing you closer to some type of twin flame unity, twin flame union, which is so much bigger than just you and your counterpart? There is a whole twin flame collective out there coming into union. And so Mars retrograde is going to involve a major purge, a major energetic upgrade, and I do feel a solar plexus recalibration during this Mars retrograde, because Mars is how we take action, and the solar plexus is our center of power. And so right now there's like an upgrade when it comes to the astral body template, I feel, and there's going to be a lot of karma that needs to be cleared during this retrograde. And so a major purge, a major release, a major upgrade. So get ready to release these old dense timelines, these old dense shadowy energies connected to the masculine collective, and even connected divine feminine to your inner masculine energy. So we're all going to be affected. We're all going to have to confront our ego patterns, our core identity wounds. We're going to have to really examine all of these outworn, outdated beliefs, behaviors. All of this negative programming kind of has to be purged, particularly though in the masculine twin, especially when it comes to the ego self or the small human self. And so the masculine twin is going to be challenged during this retrograde. And I do feel we're like definitely at the apex. We're in the middle of something huge. So how we experience Mars retrograde is basically going to be up to us, right? We can choose to do the work willingly and surrender, or we can resist, and what we resist is going to keep persisting until we kind of surrender it to the higher power. And so all of these dense toxic energies and patterns and relationships, all of these issues are going to be pushed to the surface. We can't release it if we're unwilling to face it. And so that's where that Mars in Cancer retrograde is coming in, because Mars in Cancer likes to avoid any type of big conflict, likes to avoid dealing with the issues at hand. And so we can't shift into these higher states and ground in these higher states until we deal with the issues at hand. And so as a society, not only twin flames, but as a whole society and individually, we have to do the work. And so as we all kind of come into these states of inner harmony, that will keep being reflected in our outer reality, as within, so without, as above, so below. And this is how we create real change in the world. We have to do this work, and it's going to be troublesome. It's not going to be easy, especially for those that have been resisting the change, or are still grounded and rooted in this low vibrational collective programming. Their system is still kind of riddled with all of these junk issues, or like junk DNA. And so there's going to be more challenges for those that haven't already kind of embraced the ascension path. So separation programming, right? That's pretty loud. And so separation programming kind of breaks down to separation from source. And so we are not separate from one another, guys. We are all connected. We're all part of one great big cosmic collective human consciousness, like one great big giant computer. And this is what reflects our outer reality. And so I love piecing together how we all kind of fit, especially when I do readings and do human design and incorporate that. That's for another video. But we kind of store and process all of this separation programming in the third dimension. And so in order to get to the fifth dimension and above, which I feel when we're on the other side of this collective purge and clearing, we're going to be rooted in 7D and above, most of us. And so the third dimension is the solar plexus. This is the power and control dynamics, the heart. The heart is the collective consciousness within the fourth dimension. This is kind of where all of the cosmic consciousness is stored, is in the heart, is in the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension is representative of the throat. The sixth dimension, the third eye or the anja, and then the crown is where we receive all of this divine inspiration, the seventh chakra or 7D. And so this whole process, I feel, of Mars retrograde is basically a major cleanup, a massive level of cleanup. And that's what's going to be happening during this retrograde. It is for a higher purpose. So Spirit is kind of telling us, hey, we've got to wrap up these old karmic realities, these old karmic cycles. I noticed 1111 on the timer. And so we're getting prepared for this new world of unity, this new world of unity consciousness. And so the twins play a very significant role. Above all, the masculine twin, I feel, is undergoing a very intense transformational process, and this happens from the inside out. And so this is going to help us transform these connections, transform our journey, uplift the whole connection, uplift the whole journey, because the universe is on our side. The universe is pushing for this reformation, for this reunion, for this twin soul union. And so we got to be willing to work with the energies. And divine feminine, you need to remember you have an inner masculine energy that is going to be feeling these transitions, and we're going to have to transmute our own inner wounded masculine, just like the masculine collective needs to transform their own inner wounded feminine, right? And so we kind of got to cleanse out the separation timeline, and we do that through being triggered. And we do that by being challenged with external blocks, internal blocks. All of these blocks and triggers are going to be coming up, I think, with a vengeance this retrograde, so we can improve how we take action, so we can improve our path in a very dramatic and positive way. And so there's a lot of benefits from this time, and it might not feel like it while we're in those states of turmoil. I know a lot of us are feeling stuck right now, myself included. It comes in waves, especially because this transit is affecting my 6th and my 5th house. And so a reevaluation of my day-to-day life, my day-to-day habits. I've got a Leo stellium sitting in my 6th house, and then my 5th house is Cancer. And so my creative juices are kind of a little wobbly when it comes to creation right now, when it comes to creating content. So just bear that in mind as I go through this transition with all of you too. So there's so much, I feel, that feels like the collective is in turmoil, that feels like the collective is stuck. And this is a process, right? It is a great big process. And so the universe is always seeking to bring us to our highest timeline. And so if you're in a timeline that you're here to transmute or clear, or if you're in a karmic programmed timeline, the universe is going to bring in that tower, and you're going to have to do the work no matter how challenging things get, because quitting and giving up isn't really an option, right? Not when you are called back into the light. And so we can use these energies to power up, to shift our perspectives, to shift our intentions as well, right? Because especially for me, with it going through my 6th and 5th house, I feel I'm going through a major rebirth when it comes to my creative processing. And a lot is coming up for me too to understand. So none of us are going to be immune from these challenges. So there's benefits, right? The first thing that we can look forward to is this is going to level us up. It's going to level us up on our individual path. It's going to level up this connection from the inside out. And so these connections are made manifest in the etheric realms in 5D and above. And then we have to do all of the really deep soul work to clear the blocks, to clear the past karma, so we can ground this vision in the physical reality. And so above all, we need to hold that vision of the divine masculine's highest self. Because when we hold that highest vision of the divine masculine's highest self, we allow them to remember who they really are as a soul. Okay, that's a message for you, divine feminine. Hold your counterpart in the highest regard of the highest self. Okay, because we know how difficult it is to do this soul work, right? Because we go through the transition and the transformation first. And so the masculine's ego wants to stay on defense, right? They want to stay reactive, and they use the cycles of negativity for what it is, a mask, right? A mask that they wear to avoid this deep intimacy that they share with the divine feminine. And so divine feminine, you can do so much during this time period to help your twin, to help the masculine twin, because they're clearing a lot of baggage. They're clearing a lot of collective masculine negativity. And this all kind of has to be worked through. This all kind of has to be released. So if you know that they are not doing the work, if you know, like, hey, they're in a karmic cycle with somebody, my twin isn't doing the work, you can help them by holding that space. And so when you work on your own inner masculine energies during this time period, it does allow your counterpart in the physical to have major external results. Okay, so all of these energies are working with us, really not against us, divine feminine. And so Mars retrograde too gives us all a chance to learn to be our own best friend. That's something I had to learn very quickly on the journey, is I am my own best friend. I am my only best friend. But this is really how we rethink how we function when it comes to our own self. Where do you self-sabotage, right? Because Mars is the planet of action. And non-action and non-decisions are forms of self-sabotaging. Where do you self-sabotage? Where do you also replay this loop of inner negativity in your mind? Because criticism is being highlighted, right? Where are you self-critical? Where are you critical of other people? Because that's going to show you the wound that needs to be healed the most, right? And so we got to work on being forgiving. That's a big part of the divine feminine, is forgiveness and non-judgment, mostly with ourselves, right? Mostly with ourselves. So what is it that you really want? And who is it that you really want to be? These are really good questions to sit with and to work with during this retrograde period, focusing on your goals. Not the negatives, not focusing on the past. That's not what this Mars retrograde is about. It's not about focusing on the negative or the past. It's about focusing on your goals. How can I reorient how I take action towards my goals? How can I learn to be my own best friend and not my own worst enemy? Right? And ain't that something to sit with? Because as within, so without. As above, so below. And so we have to be nice to ourselves to attract niceness back. We have to love ourselves to attract love. If we hate ourselves, if we're overly self-critical, we're going to call in that mirror to put us down and to not love us, because that's going to be a reflection of our inner reality, right? Especially when it comes to the twin flame journey. We're going to keep calling in karmic tests, karmic partners, until we master that lesson of being our own best friend. Okay, so we got to take this Mars retrograde day by day. We have to cleanse out the negativity that arises, and it might arise and stay with us the whole retrograde. It might come in waves, but we have to go through this process if we are to begin a new daily way of living. That's really what is being asked for us, asked from us. So let's keep talking about these benefits, because retrogrades don't have to be like, oh my God, a great big deal, right? We are working on raising our vibration. When we clear out all these old dense energies, all these old dense programs, we are raising our vibration. We got to push the negativity to the surface, and it can get very uncomfortable with a lot of physical symptoms. So there might be a lot of illness. When we go through a Mars retrograde, we're being asked to rest our physical body. And so we can't clear these negative energies without resting. And so the universe is saying we're going to be put into a holding pattern. We might even be put into a pressure cooker in order to resolve these blocks. So any holdbacks or hangups are going to have to be released for good, I feel, with this Mars retrograde. And so we can't move into these higher states without pushing all of this uncomfortable truth to the surface. So we're basically, over the next 80 days, 80 plus days, because we're already in the pre-shadow of Mars, we're clearing all of this long-standing past life karma, all of these old past life soul contracts. We're clearing these negative karmic attachments. And on the other side, we're opening up to unity consciousness. So how can you openly confront and heal and resolve these past life karmic connections? That's really what is being asked for us. And so these could be old, outdated marriage contracts or vows or family curses. This isn't going to happen by itself. We have to actually stir the shit pot. We got to stir the pot, stir up the energies, and we have to permanently resolve them. It's really hard to do that when you're dealing with a karmic soul connection that isn't willing to have a conversation and resolve these issues. But we can focus on cutting these cords ourselves, okay? And so all of these energies are pushing us to clear the ego blocks, right? That have kept us from really being present in our lives, being present in the embodiment of our spiritual path. And so Mars retrograde is really inviting us into a higher timeline, long-term, a long-term higher timeline, instead of this oscillating up and down like an emotional roller coaster. And so we've been nudged many ways along the journey. I've been on the path now since 2019, consciously since 2019. And so when we stop focusing on what truly doesn't matter and focus on what does matter, and we hold that highest vision, that's when we can strengthen our path and reach this point of resolve. So the universe, I feel, is bringing in a little bit of tough love for a lot of the divine masculines, because they are the ones mostly stuck in these old negative timelines. And so any darkness, any dark night of the soul energy that is going to be shown to either of the counterparts, this is coming up for releasing. So we kind of got to sit in the darkness until we can shine a light on where we need to make a choice, so we can go towards a higher timeline. And then, and only then, can we move forward, right? And so we've got to be aware of the intentions that we're setting out there. We've got to be aware of our choices, how we interact with people. And so if there is an old conflict or pattern that keeps showing up, notice it, sit with it, resolve it, be done with it, right? Stay conscious when it comes to these repetitive patterns. Mars retrograde is also pushing us to step into self-mastery. So both of the twins have to come into a state of alignment and wholeness and self-mastery on their own. And so Mars retrograde is really pushing us to gain self-discipline. Self-discipline is probably the highest form of self-love that we can embody as a human. Self-discipline improves our lives in so many ways. Self-discipline is what gets us up. It's what makes us show up. It's what pushes us to keep going forward. And so maybe you need to look at your daily habits. What habits are a block when it comes to manifesting a higher timeline? Maybe smoking cigarettes is a block. I know that was a huge block for me for a long time. I'm a whole year cigarette nicotine free now. It feels really, really good. And so when we become more conscious, we stop operating out of the subconscious mind, and we're not operating out of autopilot anymore. And then we got to kind of take on all of this karma, and we have to shift out of these outdated programs that we've kind of taken on from people all the way back to our childhood. And so it doesn't mean we're always going to be on this healing journey. I think we got to get to a point where we're like, hey, I'm all done trying to heal, but we can't avoid the process of acknowledging the blocks, right? And the limitations. And so this is all about confronting our own shadows when it comes to any toxic relationships. And that can be patterns. It can be a relationship with your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, a lover, your children. It's really time to cleanse away all of these lower ego, all of these lower self issues with Mars in retrograde. All of these old dynamics that keep hurting us over and over and over again are going to be reevaluated. And so we're setting the stage for learning about ourselves, learning about how we interact with people, how we take action towards our goals, and if we're carrying any victimhood complexes, right? And so we all can fall back. We all can be guilty of the blame game. And so we can't really move forward and have any resolution with any issues if we're constantly blaming the conflict on other people. Because let's face it, when it comes to conflict, there's always going to be that common denominator. Is going to be you or is going to be me, right? And so we got to realize how we've played into these unconscious patterns, even if we're not the cause of the issues. But it's like everything's kind of getting lit up right now, so we can recognize it. Right? We can't release it if we don't recognize the toxic pattern. And so this is really where I feel a lot of the divine masculines are going to be pushed to take accountability. They're going to be pushed to take responsibility. I think they're feeling like they're in a really tough position right now. But this is going to strengthen them for the long term. This is going to open them up to love too on a deeper level. So it's kind of like the masculines are being forced to go within. So they might lose a job. They might lose everything. They might have a lover walk out on them. A lot of the masculines are going to be forced to do this inner work and to find their own power. That's what I feel is going to be happening with this Mars retrograde. And so it's going to be also a time where we're all going to be forced to slow down. We can't heal when we're constantly running about. We can't heal when we're constantly operating out of survival mode. Real healing takes place when we slow down, when we rest, when we take time to meditate and go within. That's when real healing can take place. And so right now I feel there's going to be this energy of our actions being blocked. Our achievements are being blocked. Our goals are even going to seem blocked. But that doesn't mean don't stop going towards them. This is all going to serve a higher purpose, and this is to get us to go within. And so real transformation happens from the inside. If we're constantly chasing something outside of ourselves, then we're not really in our power. Whether you're chasing fame, chasing money, chasing men or women, we're not in our power when we're chasing anything. And so in order to go within and call back that power, we have to take time to ourselves. And that's what really allows us to truly attract our desires. And so how can you focus on balancing and restoring yourself? I think that's a big message, right? That's going to have major positive impact during this Mars retrograde. How can we use this retrograde to help us harmonize with the twin flame? So bottom line is, we are not in control of anyone's free will. The masculine can choose to do what he wants. The masculine can choose to spend time with whoever he wants to spend time with. It's when the universe supersedes his free will, then and only then will he be forced to clear all of these old karmic blocks, right? We cannot uplift somebody else. We can only keep uplifting ourselves. We can't carry other people's baggage, right? And so I think the true purpose of this period is just to cleanse away the lower programming, right? To cleanse away the lower programming, to open up dream space, telepathic connection further as well. And so if we clear the blocks that come up, even if it's just a temporary block, this is there to show us the blocks in this connection so we can reignite that remote interaction or the telepathy. So dreams have been very vivid for me. And so a lot of the clearing when the twins are in separation does happen in the astral realms, in dream space. And this too is also associated with the solar plexus ruled by Mars. And so a deep block is likely going to be shown. I noticed 29 degrees. I was going to say 29 minutes, 29 degrees. Basically, we both have to do the inner work. Not just one person. We both have to do the inner work. And so karmic connections can be resolved for good during this Mars retrograde. It definitely can be. But I do feel there's a lot of past life energies coming up. So it's basically we've got to tie up the loose ends. We got to cut the cords. We got to clear the old contracts. We've got to break apart from outdated marriage vows from past lives or promises or this life, right? We got to move from all of this past life karma to open up to unity. And so there's an advantage I feel for you, Divine Feminine. Whoever's watching this, you are the awakened twin. Usually the feminine is the awakened twin and the masculine is considered the matrix twin. And they're not awake, they're not aware. And so this isn't going to be easy for the awakened counterpart either. It really isn't. But this is going to be an instrumental part of your healing and you opening up to bringing down the union in physical harmony, right? And so we're kind of in the middle of this releasing of this old karmic timeline. And all of space and existence of all of this karma that we've been recreating and carrying over lifetime after lifetime. And so if we look at the world in its existence now, it's always based in opposition. It's always based in conflict. It's always based in war, separation. And so to shift timelines, we have to bring in more light. We have to bring in more unity and we have to bring in more love. But as we bring in more light, unity, and love, we trigger the dark to come to the light. And so it's not going to be an easy time, but that's your secret power. You're bringing in the light. You're shining the light. You're representing unity. You're representing love. And so that is your job as the awakened twin. So it's not just about them. Actually, on a deeper level, the journey is actually just about you. Because you are already one, whether you are in physical union or not, we are all one. And everything we do, think, and intend and focus on will affect the other twin and the whole twin flame collective. And so the gift we have as being the awakened counterpart is that our intentions affect everything so much more than we realize, right? And our intentions and our love and our light and our unity consciousness much more strongly affects the twin operating from ego than we realize. And so we do have the divine power to create real change. So this is really what is being asked of us. So watch out for triggers. Watch out for conflict, anger, sacred rage, aggression. There could be sexual issues coming up during this retrograde. You might feel a little bit impatient. You might feel a little bit of irritation. Get ready for power battles, arguments, and imbalances. There's going to be setbacks. You might find yourself repeating the same mistake. You could feel delayed. There could be a lot of projection and opposition coming from other people, especially if you're the one shining the light, because the universe is saying, hey, if it feels like you're unsupported, this is particularly going to feel even more difficult for the unawakened twin. So remember that, okay? This can also bring digestive issues. It can bring issues with sleeping patterns because all of these issues are ruled by the solar plexus. So we got to heal. We got to clear our chakras. That's going to be really helpful. I meditate every morning. I meditate every evening. And I would like to mention, if you're local to my area, I'm back up and running for crystal chakra clearing and access bars energy sessions. And so that is a huge energy relief if you're looking for some type of help when it comes to clearing these negative blocks in the chakra pathways. A lot of people are going to just feel more tired. I'm already feeling it, like, man, I don't want to get up at 5 in the morning every morning anymore. I'm tired. You might feel a little bit hopeless. You might go through bouts of hopelessness. You might feel a little bit uninspired because you're lacking that energy. But as we tune up and maximize the flow within the chakra pathway, we can kind of regain that life force energy back. I know really vivid, bad, strange dreams. A lot of very interesting astral experiences have been coming up for me. So that might get very loud during the Mars retrograde, because this is kind of where we clear a lot of these karmic past life contracts. That's where a lot of this gets stirred up and cleared, is in astral, is in dream space. Your counterpart might even come through in dream space during the retrograde as part of this purge, as part of this clearing. And it doesn't mean that the masculine is a karmic partner, but I do feel this really is a huge clearing, right, in the unconscious mind. And so there's deeply rooted karmic patterns in the mind so deep that they stay with us in the subconscious for a very long time. And so a lot of these patterns are so deep and so painful, we have to clear them in the astral realms while we are sleeping. So all of this is kind of working together to push us to our highest timeline, right? So people are going to react very negatively to this retrograde, especially those that are unconscious. And so if you're dealing with a twin that is still stuck in the karmic timeline or separation programming, they're going to be really, really triggered, I feel, during this retrograde. The running, the chasing, the separation issues, those are all going to have to come up to be cleared, right? And this is all due to the old programming, all of the energy blocks, all of this is going to get stirred up, right? I would never, ever chase. Don't go chasing, okay? Don't go chasing. This is about making plans, reevaluating action, and a big push for introspection, right? So we can fully get to know ourselves. That's really the whole point of the journey, is to know thyself. So blocks and setbacks are either going to be due to negative programming or a push to go within. So if you're in the flow and you're just like, hey, I'm not feeling creative today, I'm not going to push a message out there, then just sit in the block, go within, slow down. Many masculine dominant people in the collective, and you can be a woman and be masculine dominant, they are going to have a stronger reaction to this retrograde influence, I feel, because this is going to be like a part of themselves. They're going to feel like they're losing a sense of power, or like something is missing. A lot of people are going to overreact. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to try to come forward, I feel, for you, Divine Feminine, trying to win you over, like almost like a sexual conquest. So be mindful of that, because a lot of masculines are going to be drawn to the Divine Feminine shining a light right now, almost like they're trying to prove themselves, engaging in an ego battle, like I can get the prize type energy. And so all of this is because these masculines are feeling like something is missing in them, and you're shining the light on what's missing. It's not actually you that's missing. And so if someone has the need to prove themselves to you in your outer external reality, that's just showing their inner lack. That's just showing their inner child that is unhealed. Okay, that's kind of what that energy is. So what not to do during Mars retrograde. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. I know I can be the queen of freak out sometimes. I'm a Mars and Aries, and I'm like a shoot first, ask questions later, sometimes kind of Mercury and Aries. But don't freak out when it comes to these changes, because the retrograde is stirring up all of this lower energy, right? Don't make assumptions. I think that's just a regular day-to-day thing of not to do. Don't make assumptions. Don't rush. That's so interesting. I made these notes like a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't able to put the message out there because I was blocked. Don't rush. That's what I told myself this morning. That's my intention with this new moon this weekend, is I'm all done with the rushing. Everything is going to get done in my time, not in the world's time, not in what society says is timing for me. I'm all done rushing. I'm all done with that rushing timeline. And so don't get frustrated. If you're getting frustrated, it's just saying, hey, you're not in alignment, right? Don't jump back in with an ex. Don't get back into bed with an ex unless you're absolutely sure it's right for you. And don't go towards an ex just because you're not with your twin either. Don't do that. And don't feed into the fear. That's the worst thing we can do, right? And you know what? If your twin is with somebody else, just know that that energy is pushed onto them. And so if you feed into the fear, that's going to reinforce them staying in that old karmic timeline. So don't feed the fear. Don't start any new big projects, right? Do the research. Do the research now, so when Mars is out of the retrograde, you can launch a new big project. So I've got some big ideas for the channel. I do think I'm trying to phase out zodiac signs for now during the retrograde. Things are going to be changing on the channel. And if I can't be productive, then I guess whatever gets put out there gets put out there. But I do want to shift more towards doing extended readings. So the way the channel's going to go after this retrograde, I'm going to do my research. I'm going to do all of the legwork during the retrograde, the channel is going to be changing drastically in the spring when it comes to offering extendeds, and I'll probably get back into the zodiacs. Then we'll see where the energy takes me. I'm not going to be forcing anything during this retrograde, guys. Don't give up on what you've been wanting, because this is just a major reevaluation. It might just be a big setback while everything is kind of stirred up right now. And don't engage in power battles. Don't engage. Don't be dishonest, okay? Like, honesty is always going to be the best policy, because when we're not honest, then we create a big imbalance when it comes to karmic behavior. And then it turns into anger, it turns into blame, and we're only going to get more of the same back in our face. So just be honest, okay? Be honest. The universe is kind of forcing us outside of these oppositional cycles so we can get to that energy of oneness and the ultimate truth. That is our truth, right? And so we're all connected. That is the ultimate truth. So when we send hatred, anger, and blame to the twin or anybody else, we're going to push that back onto ourselves. So remember that. What you send out there for intentions for somebody else will always bounce back to you. How did that saying go? I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounces off to me and bounces back to you. Right? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Well, I just feel we got to stay out of the triggers. We got to stay out of separation mentality. We can't avoid the problems, though. We can't avoid the problems. But we don't want to contribute to the negativity either. And so we got to work with the soul to make this happen. We got to work with the soul, because the soul is the experience of true love. And so it's really not the experience of the toxic physical world that we are connected to right now. So those who are in a state of fear are going to have more challenges and more hiccups. Those that are in a state of inner harmony, it might be a little bit of a troublesome time, but we're going to have an easier way through these energies. And so this Mars retrograde really is asking us to look at how we assert ourselves. Don't let the ego realm drag you down. Unless you want more of the same. Be willing to forgive is a big one, right? When we forgive, we can move forward, and it doesn't mean what somebody did to us was acceptable, but not all battles are worth it, right? Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? So worry, anger, and resentment is wasting your energy to create something that you don't want. So don't worry. Don't use your energy to worry, to resent, or to be angry, because then you're going to struggle really bad during this retrograde. Clear those energy blocks, journal, meditate, use this energy to maybe instill a new exercise process, which I've been working on. Do the inner work, confront the shadows, clear the path, uplift the path, and heal so you can gain this positive future being made manifest. And so this really is a peak time for triggering. It's a great time to clear everything that's holding us back. So I say, don't feed the negative emotions, but at the same time, don't bottle up your feelings. When we bottle up these negative emotions, they will be expressed in all kinds of yucky, cucky ways, whether it's through our physical body, so just express these bottled up feelings creatively. Exercise is a great way to work through anger. Creativity is a great way to work through all of these negative emotions. Journaling, it helps. It really does help. If you're in a relationship where it's lost its spark and you know it's time to move on, then move on. Endings are just temporary. We've got to have a complete ending and go into the void temporarily before we can have that new cycle. We can't have our foot in two different worlds at the same time, right? We can't say, hey, I want my twin flame, but I'm going to stay stuck in this karmic cycle. It doesn't work that way, right? And so there's a lot of energy healing going on. There's a lot of conscious inner work going on. If you're in a relationship where you're just constantly dealing with a confrontational person or people, if it's a group of friends, it's usually going to be best to walk away. Just leave. What are you afraid of leaving behind? Like, that's not unity consciousness. And so this is a major time of struggle to get us towards a positive expansion for the long term. And so we're not going to sail through this retrograde smoothly. Keep that in mind. We're all going to have issues cropping up, no matter how far along the journey you are. We're all going to have issues cropping up, because right now we are shifting from unconscious expressions to conscious expressions. And whatever patterns you're not aware of, they're going to come up with a vengeance so we can bridge. We're here to bridge heaven on earth. We're here to bridge the lower self with the divine self. And that's really what we came here to do above all else. So this is what this retrograde period is all about. So work with your soul. Work on becoming the person that you've longed to become for a long time. Go within. Let your guides work with you through this time period, so you can make strides together on the other side as a twin flame pair in union. And that's what I got for the Mars retrograde energy. So let me know what you think down below, guys. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this. I wish you luck during the retrograde, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Thanks.